Good morning, everybody. It's July 14th, 2021. Just going to do a quick overview on Bitcoin here. We are seeing some bouncing this morning. It remains to be seen whether or not that is going to follow through bullishly. So let's just take a look at this chart and see what we're looking at. So I am just going to try to make it a little bit more clear, I'm doing a new clean chart here. And so really the difference between the bearish and the bullish interpretation here is whether or not this spike down is the end of our major correction. That being this correction down from the highs. Okay. So the question is that spike right there the end of this move, this correction down before we go up in the next leg of this bull market? So that's really, that's as simple as I can make it. Is that the low, or do we have one more low to make? And I cannot answer that question at the moment. We need to let price action dictate that to us. But basically I'm saying this so that you understand where my two scenarios are coming from. All right? So on the bullish side, we can say that this is the low and we have started the next move up here. And if we're looking at it that way, then the best case scenario is that we're looking at a diagonal, because this move up here is clearly an ABC. Gone over that before, so that means that's the one, right? And then all of this chop action, I was looking for, ABC, like this being 2. That didn't happen. So 2 is potentially extended down further. And this is still valid because we can take a fib retracement, right? And the target for 2 is really between the 382 and the 618 for a normal impulse, but diagonals go deeper. So potentially even down to the 886 is still technically valid. So I kind of like to say for diagonals that the 0.5 down to the 0.886 is kind of the ideal range for the 2 to form in a diagonal. And then I was looking at this and saying, okay, how do I make this make sense? And all of this is just ABC action in here, like I've been saying. That's why I keep drawing these little boxes and it keeps reacting from it, right? So this is ABC here. This is ABC here. We've got an ABC right here. And then we've got an ABC here. And then finally, last night, we got a little ABC down here. Okay, so if this now can break out, and I would kind of use this trend line here as a guide, right? If we can break out through that, then what this means, I believe, is that we've made one of these really funky corrections, which is basically 5 ABCs put together, and it's called a W, X, Y, X, Z correction, and that's those 5 ABCs all put together. So that potentially can be considered to be the 1 here and the 2 down here. With this move down, that can be considered the 2. So that WXYZ making up our 2, and we'll be then looking for a move up in the 3, 4, and 5. Now where those go, we're in a diagonal, so there's really not a fantastic way to determine where that might go, but let's just see where some of these fib extensions lie, using that as the 1 and that as the 2. I can pretty clearly say I think that 3 is going to top out probably somewhere in the 10 to 1236 region, somewhere in here. That's a pretty good target for a third within a diagonal. It might go lower. It could, really down to the 764. As long as we're above the 1, it's still valid. I would much prefer it to make a bigger move up here, but anywhere really in this red box. So 38K to 42K it could top out, and then 4 can come down and overlap with 1, potentially in this region, 35, 34, probably anywhere between 34 and 36 again. This is all very, very preliminary. As it moves along, if it even proves the scenario correct, we can kind of make this a little bit better. And then 5 is probably going to go somewhere up in this region, maybe 1382 to 1618, somewhere up there. And that would give us a leading diagonal off the lows, and we would then have a big pullback from there. Because it's a diagonal, we'll have a nice big fat pullback into this region again before we can progress upwards even further. So that there is the bullish scenario played out on a sort of fresh, new, clean chart. And now let me just get rid of all of this, and we can play out the bearish scenario with the most recent price action dictating what's going on. Alright, so this, again, remember, this is the determining factor, whether or not that is the low or we have another low to go. So if we have another low to go, then we need to look at this being the beginning of the move down, right? This saying that this is not the low in a bearish sense means that that's the first move down in a move lower. And so we would expect something looking like this. And as you can see, we still are not really out of the woods on that possibility. The only question is, how does that play out? So this would be, we'd expect a 5 move down, and we can go with the fib extension. We would say that's the 1 of the move down, and here's the 2, very likely. Now we've been dicking around in this area so much that it's just really unclear how and why it's playing out this way. You would expect for, technically that's a 2 and we should be in the 3rd wave. You'd expect this to really be pressing down already, but it is not. So this scenario is still a little bit iffy, but it's certainly not out of the woods yet. And I'm trying to see if there's any clearer path I can see this taking. I guess 1, 2, maybe. I don't really like it, but maybe that's 2 actually out there, because this could be something like, there's 1 ABC, there's 2 ABCs, 3, 4, and 5 ABCs. It doesn't really make sense because Z really should be up higher, but basically instead of the bullish WXYZ that we were potentially looking at, we might have a bearish one here playing out too. And if that's the case, then 2 is ended here. So all of this chop consolidation was really just our 2 down. And then we're going to see, there's 1, 2, we'll see a 3 push down, maybe to 764, and then 4 come up here, and then 5 push down to 24, 1, somewhere in that region. And this could all, in a very, very, very bearish sense, it could all push down even further. Although this would kind of invalidate the larger bull market that we were looking at. It doesn't really make sense on a macro that it would do that, especially with all this chop here, but it is possible. So that's something to keep an eye on. If it goes below that 24K has been my my region of importance for sure. Below that, it doesn't mean the bull market is completely over, but it certainly makes it a longer process. So that is the bearish count. It's a little less clean and a little less clear in my opinion. So really, hopefully, we just get a nice push up out of this trend line here, and we put the favor back in the bulls camp a little bit more. So, all right, that's the real quick 10-minute overview from a clean chart on what the bear and bull perspectives might be on Bitcoin. All right, guys, have a good, safe trading day. Try not to overtrade the chop.